would you go along with any of these ideas about split Dublin into amalgamate counties, the stuff that Pat Gilroy was saying? And I'm probably paraphrasing very kind of strongly there, so that's not everything he said. A lot of people reacted strongly against him. There was parts where I was like, do you know what, at least there's fresh thinking here. But then there's other parts of me that, no, I don't agree with that.
The problem that Pat had on Sunday night, Shane, was that he, last Sunday night, was that he came across, he made some reasonable points, I agree with you, but a lot of his points were I felt were said with a bit of arrogance as well, and that's sort of like, it's up to everybody else to sort their ship out type thing. And he made a couple of good points, and one of the points, I think one of the most valid points he made was the financial side of things, that if the money is handed to other counties, who is actually dealing with this money? Who is actually making the decisions with this money? Because let's be honest here, and poor Eddie Brennan got shafted for talking about county boards, but a lot of county boards don't have full-time administrators, okay? So they're volunteers, right? So they're doing the job on a voluntary basis. So therefore, a lot maybe might not have a business acumen or a business mindset or a business head on them, right? And that's not being respectful of county board officials. But if you had someone in there who was shrewd, who had a business head on them, who knew how to sort of maybe manipulate situations, who knew how to, deal with this, how to get money, how to handle money, how to make money, how to distribute money. And I go back to a number of years ago where I had a coffee with Kieran McGeaney of Armagh, and one of the things I was looking for an insight into them was the fundraising element of Armagh and how they get the fundraising drive and approaching businesses and collaging together a group of money that'll not go towards the senior team, but actually go solely towards the development squad, Shane, and the academies. And that's something that I think a lot of counties have now sniffed onto and realised that what's the point of giving an outside senior manager at inter-county level? I don't want to throw figures out there and scare people, but say for talk's sake, you're paying an outside manager 30, 40 grand, which happens, let's be honest, right? We're living in a world where coaches get paid, whether the GA like it or not. They're burying their heads in the sand over it. But you take an outside coach getting 40k, take that 40k and pump it into your development squads. Imagine the development and imagine, the progress that you would see if that money was used wisely at an underage level in your county, where people who were delivering the level of coaching to those young lads were people from the county, were proud people. You look at the David Powers of this world who have thralled the county with the tips, homegrown people. And Dublin have a lot of things right, and we'll have to give them respect too, Shane. It's not the people's fault that the money has gravitated towards the capital. But one of the things they've done well, Shane, is they've got their clubs all have GPOs. Okay, yes, that costs money. But the stories I'm hearing out of a lot of Dublin clubs are that they would rather spend their money on developing their underage structures, appointing a GPO, than paying an outside manager. So it is an interesting one. And a lot of our counties, like Tyrone, have a lot of good structures in place. There's no question about it. Donegal are the same. I can't speak for Kerry. I can't speak for Mayo. I don't know what's going on up there. But a lot of counties in Ulster here do have good structures in place, are doing a lot of good work. But your hands are tied from a financial point of view and just a numbers game as well, Shane. You're dealing with, for example, when I was at Carlow, I give a prime example in Carlow. Sean O'Brien, rugby, Tullow Tank. You're dealing with rugby. You're dealing with soccer. Padraig Ammons over at Newport shooting the lights out. Soccer's a big sport. Half the county played hurling. So it's the second smallest county in Ireland, and you're trying to get them to compete with the biggest county in Ireland, and it just doesn't make sense, So there's a lot of challenges for a lot of counties, Shane, and there's a lot of counties doing a lot of hard work behind the scenes, but it would be a lot easier if they were getting the financial help and, playing a lot of their games at home as well, because Croke Park is a huge factor. Like if you were to say to Mickey Hart, apologies, if you were to say to Fergal Logan in the morning, you're going to play all your championship games next year in Oma, imagine the boost that would give them. Imagine them being told that you're going to play every game in Oma from the quarter-final of Ulster right through to the All-Ireland final. Sure, the advantage that would give Tyrone, from knowing the ground, knowing the change rooms, it's actually ridiculous when you think about it. Like saying to Man United in the Champions League, you're going to play every Champions League game at Old Trafford, including the semi-final and the final. You're going to say to England in the World Cup, you're going to play every game at Wembley. It doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense. So there's a whole load of things, Shane, that we can talk about population growth and we can talk about amalgamated counties and splitting Dublin. But let's go to the basics and start with, take them out of Croke Park first and foremost. And that can start next year. That can start straight away next year.
And if someone said to you, we will go down this amalgamation route and Down are going to be thrown together with I don't know, Antrim and Armagh. Joe, are you going to go with that? Like Monaghan and Cavan, he talked about these lads know each other from DCU, which I know people probably hammered that point very hard. But what do you make of this idea of amalgamation? I think it stinks, and I don't like the idea of splitting up Dublin either, because I don't like the idea of basically erasing your identity. You're now North Dublin and South Dublin or whatever. But anyway, if you were told down, you're being thrown together with Antrim there tomorrow.
Well, could you tell me off the top of your head, how many All-Ireland finals has there been? 120 or something, has there? How many All-Ireland finals has there been?
It could be close to 140.
140, right? So Dublin are chasing their 30th title, okay? And Kerry have 37. So you have two teams that have dominated 60% of the All-Ireland over the last 130 years, whatever it happens to be. So there's got to be dominant teams, Shane. You look at the English Premiership, Liverpool on 19 titles, Man United on 20. Then you have a gap to someone on 11 or 10, and then there's like a 7 or a 5, whatever, and a load of teams are sprinkling. So it happens in all sports, World Cups, etc. So it happens everywhere, Shane. And I just think splitting Dublin is a disaster, but I think amalgamating other counties is an even bigger disaster, because you're taking away identities, you're scraping history out. Just for me, it's a complete non-runner. I totally agree with you. Complete non-runner.
But what about then the idea of just scrapping the Provincial Championship? Because an awful lot of the problem is we don't see Dublin matched up. Like, I would have loved to see this year Dublin against Tyrone, Mayo, Kerry, in a system that is a little bit more kind of based on the league. It would make, like, if they had to play, let's say, an 8-team league, right? And then the top 4 go into the semi-finals and then final or whatever. Wouldn't that have been unbelievable?
I think I said it, Shane, anyway. I think we missed a trick this year. I think this year was a great year and a great chance to rip up the current structures, and especially with the whole COVID thing. And I would love to have seen, for me, okay, you can shoot this down if you want, but for me, your main sort of competition should be your leagues. That should be your bread and butter. And Division 1's very competitive. Division 2's ultra competitive. Division 3's super competitive, and Division 4. And if you look through the leagues this year, I think in every division there was 4 or 5 teams contesting promotion on the last day. Even in Division 1 there was teams looking to stay up, teams looking to make, whatever, top 4 if they had been a top 4. So rebrand the leagues, make them your showcase competition. Every team plays 3 games at home, 3 games away. It's a fair system, right? And then in that league, so you have 7 games, 3 at home, 3 away, and 1 game at Croker. I don't know logistically how you would do that, whether you'd run 3 games off in the one weekend or whatever it happens to be, but everyone then gets a sort of a party. It's a fair slate for everyone. And everyone gets that Crow Park experience as well. And then use your provincials as a pre-season competition before that to warm up, okay? But have the All-Ireland Championship, aka FA Cup, 32 teams into a draw, home and away, draw it out. Imagine the shocks. Imagine the opportunity. Imagine Dublin travelling to Carrick and Shannon in the first round. We know they're going to win, but imagine the day that would give the people of Leitrim, and make these all-ticket affairs and jazz it up, even just for one season, Shane, and see how it goes. Something different. But I totally agree with you. There's the opportunity in the Champions League style format. But again, I just think that delay is inevitable. That the cream will always rise to the top, as you say, but you will get your shocks. You will get your knockouts. Like, I go back to 2018 in my own experience, like whenever that day in Tullamore when Carlow beat Kildare for the first time in 75 years, like that pitch was invaded for, people didn't leave that pitch for 2 hours after. It gave great joy, great spirit. But like 2 weeks later, Kildare were back in the Super 8s. The backdoor thing doesn't work, Shane. It's unfair. It gives teams a second chance, and you'll always might catch a big gun once, but you're never going to catch them twice. And that's the unbalanced nature of the system. But I totally agree with you to an extent, but the provincial thing's a hard sell, and I'll tell you why. Because Ulster's still wild attritional, wild competitive, and everyone thinks they can win it, and Connacht, obviously 3 or 4 teams are competitive. Tips success this year, but it doesn't happen that often, so there's probably a case that you could probably throw them out,